there were some really interesting storylines that happened in the NFL draft, but none was bigger than Shedeur Sanders and his slide to the 5th round and the lengths that some folks have gone to try to embarrass the Sanders. And we're going to talk about where that's coming from, what that means, and what the NFL is doing about it. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching the #1 college football show, welcome. Thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. We talk football year round. If you're into that, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like this video, and answer the question in the comments below. Do you think that the NFL is right to investigate what it's calling a prank phone call to Deion Sanders about when and why or where Shedeur Sanders was going to get drafted in the NFL? There was this loud roar that occurred as soon as Shedeur Sanders' name was called. 144th overall pick to the Cleveland Browns, who traded up to go get that spot. Never mind that if that's actually what the Sanders wanted, or excuse me, what the Browns wanted to do, then you can absolutely, positively, 100% get him at the #1, #2, #3 picks. That's what you want to do, right? Because they traded away that second round pick, so that second pick, and they could have had Travis Hunter and they could have had Shedeur Sanders, right? You could have had Travis Hunter at the 2 spot where you're going to pay him all this money, and then you could have got to Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round, the 4th round, 3rd round, 2nd round. He's probably going to be there, but in the 5th round, they probably said, hey, look, we can't afford to wait any longer. This is a guy that a lot of people have a 1st round grade for. We should probably act on this and give him an opportunity to compete with Deion Gabriel, who they took in the 3rd round, and Joe Flacco, who is ancient, to be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. There's already lots of folks that believe that the sadness factory, the factory of sadness, is going to do in the Sanders because it is done in everybody else. It is undefeated. It has chewed out Baker Mayfield, chewed out Robert Griffin III, chewed out Johnny Manziel. Those are Heisman Trophy winners, right? It has chewed out so many great quarterbacks. I also get around to this. It's not that Shedeur Sanders is not a great quarterback. It's that playing quarterback greatly in the NFL is really, really hard to do. So much so that we can go through the entire list of quarterbacks and we can say who is overpaid and who is underpaid. And there ain't a whole lot of guys that are underpaid. And most of those guys, you know, they're MVP candidates. That's why they're MVP candidates. They play quarterback at a high level. And if you do not have a quarterback that can play at a high level, you drafted highly or you got the dude hurt, right? I think it is remarkable that many folks have already cited how many sacks Shedeur Sanders took at Colorado. It took 50 in 2023 in a 4-8 season. Realize that C.J. Stroud took 52 sacks last year. Last year, okay? It's not any easier at the next level, and it's just as hard. I think, for me, college football is an in and of itself, and I love the NFL and love watch ball played, right? But for most NFL fans, they think of the college football as a minor league for their sport. Both are true. But in this particular instance, I thought, what a wild circumstance it's in for us to go, we can't wait to see where Shedeur Sanders is going to land. And others to go, I hope he fails. Rooting against the young black man, I just can't relate to that. I want them all to succeed. I want them all to win. I can't look at you and tell you, I hope Tyler Shuck has a horrible career, because that's not true. That's not true at all. I think Tyler Shuck has injury risk. I think Tyler Shuck is old. He's going to be 26 as a rookie. I think Tyler Shuck has not put up the body of work that Shedeur Sanders or Deion Gabriel or any of the other players that were selected behind him have. And I need to go ahead and do a quarterback rankings for the rookies here. And, it's probably going to look a lot like they were before they got selected, because my opinion of these quarterbacks does not change because some NFL team believe that they were a higher draft pick than I thought they should be. However, I think some people got in some found money, right? Taking Will Howard, for instance, for the Steelers in the 5th round, that's found money. That's a good deal. Same thing with Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round. And I finally have kind of got to the space where there are people that just want to see Shedeur fail because they believe they don't like his attitude, okay? Or they want to cite the cut clauses and they want to cite how much money he's left on the table. We talked about Quinn Ewers and the money he left on the table, getting drafted in the 7th round in the Miami Dolphins. But he didn't get prank phone called. He didn't get made fun of for having, my man from Jumanji's trophies on the wall. Nobody came after him for sitting there We were all talking about Shedeur Sanders. Nobody prank called him. Nobody prank called his agent, which happened to be his father. What they ended up doing is beyond the pale. It's just cruel. It's just cruel. Parents are not okay in that space, especially parents that are acting on behalf of their children as a business manager. Shiloh goes out and says, I got to fire my dad because, I end up having to sign as undrafted free agent to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There's something to that, I think. There's a reason why parents probably should not be agents, but it worked for Lamar Jackson right up until a point, and he was able to take that all the way out because he's one of the best players of all time. And I mean that. There's only 2 players that have won unanimous MVP in the NFL. One of them is Tom Brady, the GOAT. The other is Lamar Jackson, who is frequently in an MVP conversation, in large part because of how good he is. And I love his story because he goes to Louisville and he's going to play quarterback. And he got home one day and he told his mama, hey, they had me, try out returning punts today, just as like an aside. And his mama called up Bob Petrino and says, if I hear about him punt returning once more time, we are transferring. We are leaving. He's playing quarterback for you. And Bob Petrino's like, yes, ma'am. He's just that great an athlete. We just wanted to see what we had. You know what you have. You have a Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback. And they did. One of the youngest Heisman ever, right? At Louisville, which is ridiculous, right? And the next guy that we saw that put up the kind of numbers that he did, both rushing and passing, we're talking about Kyler Murray. We're talking about, my goodness, Jaden Daniels. We're talking about really outstanding college football players that turned out to be really good quarterbacks. Kyler Murray still got a ways to go, but you get my point on Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson. The idea that you are going to prank phone call is also kind of interesting because they didn't call a personal line, right? They used the phone that the NFL provided for such a phone call. When this one rings, what's supposed to happen, what is going on. We've seen even some mamas end up with that phone when, didn't expect it. Quinshawn Judkins' mama answered the phone because she knew who was calling, and it was great. I loved that. That was so much fun to see. That's the way you want it to go down. You don't want it to go down where, hey, we're sorry, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer, we'll see. I want to know how he got the number. I want to know who prank called, and I want to know what punishment there might be from the NFL. Because it's not that you did this to Deion Sanders, it's that if you could do this to him and you could do this to them, you could do this to anybody. And the idea that somebody is making fun of an NFL institution has never been something that they enjoy. The NFL does not want you to make this about you, and they certainly don't want to be embarrassed. This is embarrassing for them. Their security is embarrassed. Their IT is embarrassed. They don't do embarrassment in the NFL. You're going to do it their way. So much so that many people believe that the NFL was sending a message to the Sanders going, you want to do this on your own. You don't want to come to our NFL scouting combine, which we do not put on for our health, and participate. You just want to go through the interviews, for which many people believe he bombed. I don't really care about that part. You knew what you had. You knew what kind of player he was. And Kevin Stefanski saying the same thing. It's like, nah, we didn't feel that way. And if you're going to bomb an interview, you're going to bomb the Cleveland Browns interview because you know what the Cleveland Browns have done for my entire life, which is absolutely positively nothing. Somehow they land one of the greatest players of all time in Jim Brown, and we still talk about that. But for the most part, we talk about what the Cleveland Browns ain't done or how they're going to screw it up, or how they're going to run into the ground another quarterback, whether it's Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders. We find that, hey, that Deshaun Watson contract you gave up, probably a bad idea. Y'all need to do something about that real quick, fast, and in a hurry. I think you've also given the Browns an opportunity here to kind of rehabilitate their image around Shedeur Sanders. Like, if he wins the job, if he wins the job, 2 is going to be the most popular jersey in the NFL because he was the most popular jersey in college football for 2 consecutive years. There was only one jersey that outsold his in 2023 when he went 4-8. That was Caitlin Clark, who was a supernova. This is what you're getting, let alone a guy that, when you give him an offensive line, is remarkable. He is one of the most accurate passers in the sport, given just 2 seconds to get rid of the football. If anything, he has more in common with Tom Brady in his athleticism is a little bit better, but not a lot better. But the thing he does well is read and react. He doesn't throw interceptions like that. He doesn't throw the ball into tight windows he can't afford to, and he puts the ball where only his guys can go do it. And while he was throwing passes to Travis Hunter, he's also throwing passes to a bunch of dudes that NFL fans do not know much about. Jimmy Horn was still there late after Shedeur Sanders was taken. That's one of the fastest guys in the sport. LaJohntay Wester was there late. One of the fastest guys in the sport last year. He was throwing to them as well as Will Shepherd. Again, when we talk about Shedeur Sanders, we're really talking about Deion. And we're not talking enough about what Shedeur has done, which is handle all of this with class, which is frankly what Prime expected. I got to sit down with Prime a couple weeks ago, and I asked him about this. I asked him about, being a present father and how his children act. And he would say, they're from me. That means they don't care if you clap. They're going to play either way. They're there to win. My children want to win. They want to be the best at what they do. And they're going to carry that confidence everywhere they go. And you've never seen them act out. You've never seen them have a piss poor demeanor. They're always going to be 100% on task and valued. That is how they view themselves. That is how you should come to view, I think. The Shedeur Sanders that will enter the NFL gets invited to rookie camp. And I'm going to do a thing, I think, where I just go through these NFL draft classes that I like and talk a little bit more about the NFL than I have in the past, mostly because it's time and I enjoy it. And I think you would enjoy it too. So if there are questions that you would like me to answer as I get into the college football players that are transferring to the NFL and what you can expect, hit me in the comments with those as well. And let's see if we can make this go.